Okay, so here are the back of the movements. I don't have two identical movement holders, so you have to deal with that too. So you can see the differences. 7.5 for X, all metal. Main plate is plated brass, and it shares a lot in common with the 6300 movement that it was based on. You can swap like calendar parts back and forth, for example, but it's all metal, all metal. So remember, it's gonna have a tendency to expand and contract a little more. This, it is built on this sort of fibrous plastic. It's not like a squishy plastic or anything you can bend. It's almost like I keep wanting to use the word ceramic, but that's not the right word. But it's a hard, fibrous material, and it goes dink. So different piece of business. And again, I'm assuming, and the way that they did this is that this is involved with the jewels and how they're set, so that is going to help them. Okay, so let's pull off these plates. There's your battery strap on your 754X. Oh, come on. I need to sharpen that screwdriver. Because if I don't, I might start cursing, and we don't want to do that, do we? There's a battery strap with its stepped screws. They're sort of special bespoke parts. You can still get the stepped screws because the 754-6s still use them, but anyway, there's that. Come on, Mr. Dial, get out of the way. Okay, this is another super important part. This is a teeny tiny little rest washer for the battery strap. This part only was made for this, as far as I know. And if you lose that, yeah, you can replace it, but it ain't quite the same. Let's get the other two screws off. So this circuit and backplate combo is held down by 4 little screws. That's it. Okay, come on. Ooh, look at that. See these white stuff? Battery acid crystals. Thank God didn't get any worse than that. That's my biggest thing. If I ever were to design a quartz watch, I would make it that the battery power source, I would make it that the watch movement itself is completely sealed, in a sense that it's nowhere near the battery, and even if the battery exploded and caught fire and whatever, it would not damage the movement, versus being just like that. We flip. Ooh, yeah, you can see it. Thankfully, gosh, it didn't go any worse. Look at that. See those acid crystals there? So I'm going to have to get some ammonia, neutralize that stuff. Because if it gets bad enough, the acid flows from where the battery, and it can move over here and get into the CMOS, and then you're screwed. Okay. So then we take off this back plate. We have 4 screws, one of which holds down the friction spring. Oh, by the way, I did test this movement. It absolutely does. It's a runner. It clicks over, thank goodness. So there's that. 1, 2. Yeah, I couldn't believe it. 50 cents for 1,000 views. What's the point? Besides, it's fun, and some of you people watching enjoy this. Some don't, apparently. But, what are you going to do? Let me make sure I'm in the screen here. Okay. Oh, come on. Actually, you know what I should do? I should swap these. This older school movement holder would do a better job holding on this fiber spacing block. And this metal one would work much better on this movement, which has so much in common with the mechanical movements it was based on. So now we have to go like this, keeping the same orientation. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, so there it is. There's the, ooh, nice, rust. Okay, so now that I've got some corrosion to deal with, I can tell you about this is not a paid endorsement at all. I'm just telling you the product that I use for this. They haven't paid me a cent for this. They've never heard of me. But I use this particular product I found down at my local hardware store. Tarnish remover. So this, oh, and it's woman-owned. What do you know? Anyway, but you put tarnish in, and that can certainly help clean this out. I also use, this is another one that I use a lot, depending on what the problem is. Evaporust. Depending on what the problem is. This stuff, the Tarn X, it's good for, it works for hands pretty well, but it's dangerous to the loom, so you can't play with that. I haven't quite figured out 100% how to deal with it, but anyway, that's one of those is going to get used. Yeah, definitely got some water in here. There's your circuit. So this right here, that's the circuit for this model versus this. You can see how much more substantial and hardcore this one is. Wow, look at that acid. It blacked out all this stuff. Also the problem when these newer style sort of membrane circuits, when they get battery acid on them or rust, this plastic can just degrade. And since the plastic is so light, it can just break down. All of the leads look okay. And there's a little bit of tarnish here, but that's okay. You can see the different CMOSs there. There's no temperature compensation on this one that I can see. I could be wrong. This one, of course, is the variable trimmer. This one only has the two, the little things that you can cut. So I would say then, let's go here, and we'll say, I haven't made a decision yet about the metal of this thing. So let's say circuit. I'm going to give advantage to the 754, not only because it's a more heavily built piece, but also because it has the variable trimmer. Okay, now we're going to start getting into things like keyless works and stuff. Okay, I actually think what I'm going to do is, yeah, we're going to talk about keyless works. One advantage I just realized, going back to talking about magnetic shielding, well, it's not an advantage, it's just how they approached it differently. The 7548 has an additional magnetic shield here. This goes around the coil, and that's what that's for. Okay, let's now, okay, so you're looking, let's see if I can really dial in here for you. Hopefully you guys can see. So we have a metal train bridge. And all this stuff is metal. Main plate is metal, everything else like that. This main plate spacer block is this fibrous plastic stuff. This is for the hacking lever and also the circuit cutout for when you pull the crown. See that? This touches a pole on the underneath of the circuit right there, and it cuts out the circuit. I don't know if it saves the battery, but it stops it from running. Okay, so, but it's all metal. Nice thing is, metal. It's metal. I mean, how many bad things can happen to it? It's metal. But here's this. Now, The 7C has a lot of cost-saving and manufacturing-saving changes. So instead of, like this has a 6009 style keyless works on the other side. This has this sort of pressed plasticky thing that sort of just sits on top, holds everything in place, like Seiko likes to do with these later things, which is you have a whole bunch of springs and other items just kind of sitting on top of each other in loose association. It's nowhere near as burly and secure as the 754X. It's just literally, it's a little piece of molded plastic. I'm sure it saved them a lot of money though. No machining, no stamping, none of that stuff. That over there. And so now, well, here you can see the keyless works. And it's all this, like, it's this really light metal. These little teeny, just, I mean, seriously, not paper thin, but certainly cardboard thin. You know, they are not, and they just, everything sort of is on top of and underneath everything else. And so putting this back together, it's like you have to assemble a house of cards and then try to hope to God don't get a burst of wind in, knock everything over. I mean, okay, like there's your setting lever. These are one of these things, it's absolutely fine right up until it's not. It's, in my mind, it's not only a whole lot easier to deal with the keyless works on a 7548, parts are also so much easier to find. These keyless works, these parts, Seiko used them in everything. They're so easy to find. There were so many of them. This, absolutely not that way at all. Parts availability of any kind for 7Cs is hard to find. Seiko's been making the 7C for over 30-something odd years now, and yet most spare parts you can't get. You can sometimes find complete movements. They come and go. So this is, by the way, the hacking lever. So I'm kind of being a dingleberry because this is locked in place. You have to have this lever in place before you screw down the train bridge here, I believe, whereas this is not like that at all. So, and the other keyless works on the other side of this are exactly the same as, I don't know, actually they're not a whole lot different from this. This is a 6000 series 6106. It doesn't have the setting lever with wheel that this will have, but it's basically that is like this metal, all metal, screwed down. You know what you're dealing with. This is a sort of this assemblage of springs and pieces, and it's all integrated. So I would say then, what do you want to call this? Keyless works? Circuit, I already gave the vote to them. We're going to say KW, keyless works. I'm going to give the advantage to 754X. I just think it's better. Oh, you know what? That's what I should do too. Let's make a big dividing line here. Every time we have a parts availability, well, you know, that's not fair. I was going to talk about parts availability, but basically that's cheating because this, you can't get anything for these. Whereas there are so many millions of these models generally around, you can find bits. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. All right, I've just made a decision.